Hello everyone, welcome to music video lesson 3. We're continuing our look into Emile Sande's Heaven today. Last time out we looked at kind of getting our understanding again of the chronological order of the video, talked a little bit about some of the techniques that might be used in terms of editing and camera shots, and then we had a little look at media language and how that was used to try and construct Emile Sande's star image or brand image. So, before we get cracking with more detail today, what we're going to have a little look at is, to start us off, a little quiz. And this is a little fact sheet, should I say, rather. And on the screen, you should see in front of you now, there are a list of facts from Emile Sande's, about Emile Sande's Heaven, and also about Burn the Witch from Radiohead, which is obviously going to be our next focus. So, have a little look. It's going to stay on the screen for just a few seconds, 30 seconds or so. Have a little look, see how many you can remember, and in a moment it will disappear, or you are going to need to move it off your PowerPoint and then see how many you can write down. So have a look, 30 seconds, and then once that time's up, turn away, don't look at your screen, don't cheat, and see how many you can record on your paper. Okay. Oh, welcome back. So just some useful information, some little facts it's worth having there as you prepare to write about these. An interesting one there about Tom York tweeting the lyrics of Burn the Witch actually on the day Donald Trump was elected, which is quite significant, I think, and we'll talk more about that one when we get on to Burn the Witch. But for now, Emile Sande. So the next thing I'd like to do, and again this is just brushing up your kind of your knowledge and getting our minds back into thinking about Heaven and Emile Sande. A little mini quiz here for you. So there are 5 questions. You can just pause the video, have a go at the 5 questions. We'll reveal the answers shortly. Again, don't cheat, just have a go, see what you can think of in terms of your answer. 5 questions, pause this video, come back when you've answered them. Okay, hopefully you had a good go at those 5 questions there. Hopefully maybe the information came to mind. Let's have a quick look at the answers. What is written on the glass is "Fear is your only God." The mother feeds the baby a bottle of milk. And I'm just going to come to question 3 in a second. Question 4, the line from the lyric, "Will you try to leave me or give me one more try again?" And the lighter that is handed over is orange. But I just want to dwell on number 3 for a second. The most frequent camera shot in the video is a close-up. And we see this a lot. We see this on Emile Sande. We also see it on lots of the other people that feature and appear. And I think it's a significant one because when we're using a close-up, it's something very intense, very personalised. The director's wanting us to maybe really focus on a particular detail, and we really get to see a lot of Emile Sande, her expression, maybe how her seriousness, her kind of her heart and soul going into the song, and we also get to see the close-ups of the other characters, the other people that feature and appear. It's very kind of real. They're not just kind of passers-by on a street. We get to see them intimately close up. I think that's kind of one of the things that underpins the song. Anyway, okay, let's have a look at moving on to the next slide. So you can see the statement here at the top. It says, "You may get a question about," and you can see here how the different modes, and when we say modes, we're talking about, the different forms, and images, sound, speech, writing, all those different modes come together to construct the video. So how the different modes and the language associated with the different media forms communicate multiple meanings. So multiple meanings. So that's something we're just going to have a little look at now and think about how we can break this question down. Okay. So, if we look at the question here, written, explain how the different modes and language associated with different media forms communicate multiple meanings. So let's just have a look at some of the key words. So, first of all, if we're just thinking about images for a moment, there's many things we can kind of talk about here. So, for example, if we're talking about Burn the Witch, you can see down here, you could perhaps see the images that we experience in the music video. As amusing, you can see them, at the end of the day, they're very tiny little animated cartoon-like figures, aren't they? So that we could see them as something quite cute and amusing, but at the same time, in terms of a multiple meaning, we could look at this as something to be quite horrified by. The nature of kind of the video where there's scenes of blood and obviously this kind of attempt to burn somebody and is all quite horrifying, and equally so, or more so even perhaps, when we see it being carried out by what are supposed to be kind of cute cartoon-like figures. Maybe if we think about the images that we see, are they at one time, both at the same time, funny and sad? Do we get that kind of strange oxymoronic feeling that something is kind of two things at once? It can be sad or it can be uplifting. If we think about the layers of meaning in terms of the images we see in heaven, maybe what we're saying is, if we think about the setting, is it trying to show us that London is bleak and downtrodden? Is it trying to equally suggest that kind of life is hard, but also that music can be our saviour, or that Emile Sande herself can be a saviour and wants to kind of help you? And you can move this through and think about sound and writing as well, you know, with the video and the lyrics dovetailing, are they tied together? The sounds that we hear, the words that we hear, does that fit and match with what we see on the screen, or are there multiple ways of interpreting that? Okay, so just to sort of put that into some practice, we're going to have a little look through now a few example shots from heaven and think about maybe how we can talk about how media language is trying to create possibly multiple readings, different ways that we can interpret what we see. Okay, so let's take this one as an example then. We see Emile Sande, you know, singing with these bright blue skies, and interestingly behind it we can see the kind of church spire or the cathedral spire in the background. So if we take this scene here, how might we interpret that? What is one of the possible meanings, or one of the many different meanings that this could be trying to get across to us? So you can see on the screen here, you've got a possible suggestion is that religion can be a saviour, that it's there in the background, it's there if we search it out, it's there if we want it, it's always going to be there. So despite all the other things that seem to be happening in the video, they're strong and powerful in the background. Religion is always there. So it could be the saviour. Could it be the opposite? And this is where you need to think about your media language. Why that camera angle? Why show it in a way that is quite distant, or we only see the top of it? Is that, as we say, to suggest that it's peeking over as a reminder? Or is it to suggest this second point, maybe that religion is actually marginalised in our society? That it is something, you know, that people don't pay as much interest to anymore. It is a background thing. It is not something that is so prevalent and important in people's lives. You know, we see the street scenes and the close-ups, for example, you know, showing us real life. Is it that the church and religion is something marginalised and just pushed to the side and in the background? So you can think about how the media language is being used and see how you might want to interpret it, or also acknowledge that there are multiple ways it could be interpreted. There's further suggestions. Is it suggesting that music is actually the new religion that people follow and believe in? Is it that Emile Sande is some kind of critic of religion? Is it her having a go at religion itself? Is it not? Does the church not do enough to help those in need on the streets? These are all things that maybe we could be thinking about. So what we'd like you to do is go through now slide 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 and 13. So go through each of those slides there in your PowerPoint and try and decide which of the interpretations you think you most agree with that are on the screen or on your page. You could add your own if there's something different that you think, no, it's none of those, I think it's something else, that's okay as well. But for whichever you decide, whichever you pick, what we'd like you to do is to write down an explanation as to why, justification. Why do you think that is suggesting religion is the saviour? Why do you think it might be suggesting it's marginalising, for example? But specifically with reference to the media language. So is it something about the camera angle? Is it the mise en scène? Is it the lighting? What is it that you think is maybe implying that particular interpretation? So you go through each of the slides, decide on what your interpretation is, comment on the media language used as a justification or explanation as to why you think that. Okay, so it's going to take you a few minutes to go through slide 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 and 13. Look at the interpretations, choose your own, use media language to help justify your choices. Okay, have a go at that, pause, have a go, come back to me when you're done. Okay, so you've just come up with a variety of different suggestions of what Emile Sande is actually trying to say, what her messages are. And we need to maybe think about what is leading or what is inspiring these kind of comments or these kind of ideas that she's putting across in the video. And two ideas that came out of an interview she did were that perhaps there was some sort of dissatisfaction with maybe the place of organised religion in society, and maybe also the idea that she feels that people are having to grow up too fast, and there's a lot of kind of dangerous temptations out there, and it's becoming even harder to, as the song says, keep your heart clean. I'm not going to read this all out to you, but if you just have a look on slide 15, you'll see this in front of you. And if you just pause me now, have a quick read through what was said by Emile Sande about how heaven came about. I think it gives you some indication of kind of some of the motivations. So pause and have a quick read. Okay. So if we then think about the images that you've already looked at, and you've looked at the freeze frames and digested and dissected the kind of the media language and what meanings it might put across. You've heard what she's had to say about it being, heaven being about trying to be good and temptation and kind of perhaps the involvement of the church and everything as well, and what role that has to play. We need to think about how editing is then used. So it's one thing taking each of the shots and the frames individually, but how is it all woven together? And editing helps make that meaning. Editing is the thing that stitches it together. And we need to almost take a bit of an English student perspective and think back to your days of GCSE when you'd be looking at exploring a poem. So just like that, we're going to think about why certain images are kind of juxtaposed, where the contrasts are, what do we move between, in the same way you might have looked at a poem and said, why does it move from this, what happens in this stanza to this stanza? Why does the editor do that here? So, for example, is the editor using graphic matches? Do we get cross-cutting? What is around, in context, what else is around the shot? What does it move from and then to? Does it go back to that same shot? Why? What about the pace? Is it fast-paced? Is it slower? Do the visuals that we're seeing, do they correlate with the lyrics or the music in any way? And you're going to try and put this into a paragraph. You're going to try and write this up. So what I'd like you to do is to choose one of the images that you've explored there. So that could be slide 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 or 13. Remember, choose one of those. And you're going to try and write a paragraph explaining how that shot is edited in context, what surrounds it. You know, we'll say, is it graphic matched? Is it got crosscuts? What is it crosscut with? What effects are actually created by those editing choices? Do those visuals fit and connect with the lyrics in any way? What is the speed or the pace like at that moment? And how does that help you explain Sande's messages and meanings that she's, you know, that we believe she's trying to put across in the video? Okay, so one paragraph, try and think about those questions, analyze your chosen shot in context whilst being edited, and tell us what you think of how that shows her meaning. So pause there, write up your paragraph, come back to me when you're finished. Okay, good. So one final task, and this is something you've seen before, and we looked at these sheets back in year 12. So you should have something similar to this, but what I'd like you to do is to revisit it. I want you to go and have a look on your blog. It may not be there, or if it is there, it may be slightly underdeveloped, or you may now have kind of a new take on it, some new ideas based on what we've talked about in the last couple of lessons. And I want you to edit it or tweak it or rewrite it, but I want you to complete one of these sheets in full. So last lesson, I asked you to think about these 5 questions for either Oasis or Hosier, but this time I want you to fill in those 5 questions with big ideas, but specifically I want you to get into the more smaller details about camera angles, editing, mise-en-scène, and so on, as you go through these questions on the right-hand side, making sure you've got a really detailed response or really detailed notes there on Emile Sande's Heaven. Okay, so go away, revisit your blog, have a little look, see what you've got already, see if you can add to it, tweak it, change it, make sure it's a really detailed answer or a really detailed set of answers to make sure you've got everything you need to know. All right, thanks everybody. Post it onto your blog, please, when you've finished it, and just let your teacher know you've got it on there. Thanks. Bye-bye.